Peace, everyone. I pray all is well. Today, I would like to talk about relationships. Imagine a world where we had nobody to relate to, we had nobody to talk to, we had nothing to share with anybody. That would be a very strange and undesirable situation. I think we can all agree upon that. It is not necessarily the easiest topic or easiest aspect of our lives, being that we do live in a world where many obstacles may present themselves, maybe challenges or opportunities to grow, depends on how you view it. That is one of the main things. How do you view it? It is important to have a clear understanding of what your foundational principles are, of what you value, who you are as a person, who you have become, what has shaped you, and how all of those things that have shaped you relates to the different ways that you may show up in a relationship within yourself, your relationship to yourself, and the relationships that you share with other beings. There's many different aspects to this topic that you can dive into. I don't pretend to have any answer for you about any of the things that you need for yourself. You have all of the answers within you, and I am simply providing you with a perspective and with a reflection, and also with a little bit of vulnerability, because I am not necessarily a very open book. For me to be presenting myself in such a way has taken a lot of intention, a lot of internal work, as to be able to share myself, my heart, with you all in this way. This is my way of providing value to you all in so far as I feel is necessary and I feel is relevant for this particular sharing space, for this particular space. I will share differently in different spaces. When I work with clients, primarily when I work with women, I share in a different light, I share in a different space, in a different place, in a different time, with an entirely different energy and intention, right? So every space that I operate in is with a particular intention and is more personalized. Yeah, back to the topic on relationships. Everything in life is going to have some level of trauma to it. Like, since the day that you were born and you were pushed out of a womb, or perhaps you were cut out of your mother's stomach, even that in of itself is a traumatic experience. When we are in the womb, we are experiencing things through your mother. So whatever your mother is experiencing within her body, when you are in the womb, you are actually perceiving that energy, and you are actually undergoing a particular trauma that perhaps your mother went through, right? And so trauma is a very natural thing. You are pushing through a birth canal. That is a traumatic experience, especially when you're just chilling and you're floating in that amniotic fluid. You're just in the sac. You're chilling, you're calm. Most likely you're just in a peaceful state, being that your mother wasn't undergoing some tremendous trauma. When we think about, the things that a lot of our mothers have had to go through throughout life, just to be able to exist in this kind of a society, maybe it wasn't that peaceful for you in there. These are very relevant aspects to the ways in which that we relate to ourselves, and therefore the way that we show up and the way that we present ourselves within these more intimate relationships, these interpersonal relationships. Something that I find is relevant nowadays is the relationship between the masculine and the feminine energies. Although they are coming from the same source, although we both have these aspects within ourselves, there is also a framework that has been provided for us as a society to abide by, right? Like, there has been let's say, a dominant frequency as far as the way we perceive the divine feminine and the divine masculine energies in this world and in many worlds within this world, right? You might come from a world in which these two energies were in balance with one another and mutually respected, or the polar opposite. You might come from a world in which one was far more powerful and more respected than the other, right? So depending on the family that you were birthed in, your karmic whatever, you're speaking to somebody who doesn't really know too much about these things. Like, I'm not coming from a place where I just went and dove headfirst into the spiritual realms or none of this. I perceive that it is natural for me to have an understanding of these things because they have presented themselves to me. And as much as I didn't want to know about a lot of these things, they have been so blatantly in my face. And therefore, I have had to, have an understanding of what certain things were about. Some people are presented with things and they just want to know everything about it. I was never really about that life. I was always just kind of wanting to have a peace of mind. And honestly, I was always wanting to have pain relief because I would experience a lot of pain. I just didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with the conflict of things. I am not trying to have conflict in my life, or I would always try to avoid the conflicts that were constantly presented to me. And so, in the asking of a resolution, a resolve, and some peace, all of these more spiritual topics have presented themselves to me and have let themselves be known, have been made relevant to my life. As much as I have had an aversion to understanding what some of these things are, as much as I've tried to just keep doing what I do in my own space, in my own lane, like, you know, it's persisted in my life. And I learned a lot. I've learned that there are things that work for me and things that don't work for me. There are things that you will learn through, that you will grow through, and it is for a reason. You will always learn something for a reason. You will always go through something in life to learn through it, to grow through it, and hopefully to rise above whatever it is that you perceive is holding you back. I've learned to have a deep appreciation and a deep respect for relationships and to have a deep sense of respect for myself. I have an understanding of myself that allows for me to know when something is right for me and when something is not right for me, when something resonates and when something does not resonate. And it is up to me and it is up to you to be 150% honest with yourself. And in order to be honest with yourself, you have to spend some time with yourself, to have that moment of self-inquiry where you can understand why it is that you feel the way that you feel, why it is that something may resonate with you or not. In a world in which people want you to conform to a certain way, want you to abide by a certain set of principles that perhaps doesn't resonate with you as a soul, as somebody who is more of the feminine, or somebody who was born masculine, who was born as a man. You might not necessarily feel resonance with that which has been imposed upon you. And maybe there's other aspects. Maybe you don't even feel resonance with that which hasn't been imposed on you, but is just a naturally occurring thing, right? And so we must understand why it is that we make these decisions, why it is that we feel the way that we do, so that we know who we are, so that we have an understanding of our souls and of our purpose, of why we are relating to one another in the ways that we are, and to be able to have that honesty with ourselves so that we can be wise in the ways that we choose to respond to others in relationships, in the ways that we choose to show up, or in the ways in which we choose to walk away from relationships. If we don't know, then we will not be able to act accordingly to what is the right course of action for you, right? So there's no inherent right or wrong course of action to take. It's more so what is right for you at this moment and what is wrong for you. What is your heart saying to you? Now, I'm going to be extremely vulnerable with you right now just to build some trust, because it's not easy to build trust in relationships. And who am I? I'm just some random person that you're seeing on the internet speaking to you, right? I'm just somebody that perhaps you've known who is constantly changing. And so maybe you have an attachment to a version of me that is not me now, because I like to evolve. I like to change. Hopefully you can receive the energy and the quickness of what it is I'm translating to you. I might be communicating to you something that is not at all surface level by simply expressing in the ways that I'm expressing. So this is me being vulnerable right now. Today, I randomly clicked on this YouTube video and it was talking about this guy who wrote something about yoga. I don't know, it was like some yogic teaching. And this guy was talking about this yogic teacher who mastered some form of meditative state. And it's interesting. I felt resonance with it. It was like a cue on my YouTube. It just started playing after. And when I started listening to it, I was like, oh, wait, I feel like I've experienced this before. It was this guy describing this yogic practice. And I've been getting into these meditative flows or states of being. Something very particular. And whatever this guy was expressing, it was like, wait a minute. That's kind of what I've been experiencing low-key. This is a common theme in my life where I will find things within myself, in of myself. It's not like, oh, let me be spiritual. Let me go seek this out. Let me go figure this out. It's like I'll go within myself, have these experiences, and then something external to me will be like, that's what this is. And I'm like, oh, shit, that's a thing. Yo, that's so cool, right? Or, the other way around. Somebody will present something to me and I'll be like, nah, I'm good on that. Nah, I'm good on that. Nah, I'm good on that. And then universe, God will be like, no, the fuck, you're not good on that, because that's where you're finna go. Vulnerable state of being. Me continuing to be vulnerable with y'all. Today in particular, this video is playing, and then he's like, we're gonna go into a meditation. And sometimes I'm not necessarily in a meditative, like sit down and go into a meditation mood. Sometimes I like to just be outside and be with the plants and listen to them and just listen to the plants, and that'll be my meditation for the day. Like I said in my past videos, you don't have to go into a meditation and Hare Krishna yourself into a meditation. Like that just does not have to happen. Like you can literally go make yourself a pasta dinner and allow that to be your meditation, right? So I was outside just vibing with the plants today, and very intentionally, like I won't go too deep in that, but just being very intentional and present with my environment, which is absolutely beautiful, and not necessarily wanting to go into this meditative state. I'm not trying to go too deep. And here I am listening to this queued up YouTube video unintentionally, and this man towards the end of this video, which I ended up finding very interesting, starts talking about, okay, we're about to go into a meditation. I'm like, oh, I guess it's happening, right? And he's just like, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to breathe into your heart center. And I've shared that in my YouTube videos with y'all, but it's different. He did it a little different. He's like, as you breathe, as you inhale, expand your awareness of your heart. And when you exhale, send it out even farther, right? Usually I exhale and I send that awareness and that like deeper into it. But he was just like, expand your awareness around your heart and then expand it even further out. And so I was listening to what he was saying, and he went through this whole process. I don't even remember what he said, but I realized in that moment how much emotion I was harboring in the space. Like so much pent up emotion. And mind you, I've been aware that I've been feeling some type of way in my heart space these past few days. Ain't nothing new though. Like I'm very emotionally intelligent. It's whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't even give a shit. At this point it's like, but I wasn't necessarily taught how to take the time to process, and like to take that moment and go into my space, I've had to teach myself over time. And I'm not, I don't excel in that area. Although I'm aware of it and I practice, it does take some instruction. It does take some guidance for me to be able to go into that space. Or it has taken some instruction and some guidance. And even now, it's not like my strongest suit. It can be a little bit challenging. Usually I just like to process things through my painting, or process things through working out, or process things through like dancing, or doing things that are more physical, as opposed to like really sitting down and emotionally processing by writing or addressing things, you know. But I have done that. It's just that it's not something that I'm super keen on, right? And so here this man is saying, like, you know, you gotta do that. And I'm like, shit, I forgot. Or I didn't forget. I just like, oh man, you know, I've been aware, but I haven't been taking the time. Sometimes I like to take the time during the full moon. Look, there was a time in my life where literally I was like, fuck a full moon, you know, like fuck a new moon, fuck all the moons. I don't give a damn. You know, I have a song, and it's like, I like to write songs. If y'all are watching this show, probably already know. Is it the moon that you blaming? My ruling planet retrograding. There ain't no name in this feeling. Shadows constantly in motion, staring at the fan fixed onto the ceiling. Hot summer day. Right, so it's basically to say, like, you know, don't make this about the moon phase. Don't make this about my Mercury retrograde. None of that shit. Like, that's always been my energy, is like, fuck that shit, right? Being like mad at that type of shit, I always be like, all right, like maybe I can utilize this as an opportunity for me to be more intentional with my emotions, because it's so challenging for me to go there. I'm like, okay, full moon, this is a reminder, JoJo check in, right? And this guy's doing this thing. After I go through this process, I'm super emotional, because I just realized, like, I just sat with my heart space in that way, where I was like, damn, I'm holding a lot of pain in there. Damn, this is like mad vulnerable for me to be talking to you guys like this. Like, this is the type of thing that I would put on my Patreon, not here. So, you know, happy birthday. I was experiencing this extreme emotional state of awareness, like, wow, you're really holding all that shit in your heart space right now. And it's like, you're not gonna be able to grow with all that shit. You're not gonna be able to grow in the ways that you want. Maybe you'll be able to grow in the ways that so and so wants you to, right? Or in the ways that society says you should. But in the way that Jocelyn wants to, in the way that Jocelyn needs to, in order to evolve on Jocelyn's path, you need to look at that shit. And you need to hold space for yourself, being that you're aware of what you're aware of within your heart's intent. Here I am, like, becoming fully aware of that shit and just loving it too. Like, wow, that just amplified my self-love to the craziest level. I didn't think it was possible. So it was a beautiful experience. But after, I was like, I still feel that shit. Like, hold on, let me write about this. Let me write about what I feel. And like I said, instead of being like, fuck a full moon, I looked up, you know, when's the next full moon? And I realized that the full moon is coming. And during the full moon, what I've been practicing for a little while now, actually, I would usually take a trip to the hot springs, and I would do like just a meditation. Like, I'll literally just sit in the hot springs in the middle of the night, stars are shining, watch the stars. And it's like the hot spring, the surface of the water at night with a candle, it's like it turns into a mirror, right? And so I'll look at my reflection and I will just say positive things to myself, like affirm myself in this reflection, and love myself in this reflection, and take the time during the full moon to clear out energy, right? So new moon is usually a time where I'll speak about what I'm calling into this cycle, right? It's like cycles. Like, this cycle, I'm calling in even more dedication, like taking it to the next level. I'm grateful. You speak as if it is done, and you speak positively about what it is that you are creating for yourself with gratitude. You express gratitude for those qualities and those characteristics that you will embody, and it's not even a negotiation. It is what it is. Like, this is what is. When the full moon comes around, you can take that time to reflect. Well, that which I wrote about my intentions during the new moon, that which I was calling forth within myself, did those things come into fruition? Take that time to reflect, to see, see where you're at. Also, full moon is more about me saying, wow, I'm letting go of this shit. Thank you. Thank you so much. I release all of this bullshit. Because oftentimes when you make an intention to grow, you are also saying anything that is within me that is not allowing me to embody those qualities have to go. So in order to grow in a certain way, you have to let go in a certain way, in a lot of ways, and all the ways that imply that you will not be able to embody those things, you gotta throw all that shit in the trash. But personally, the way that I like to relate to myself, I like to be graceful, and I like to honor all versions of myself with the utmost respect. Because without that version of myself, I would not be here. I realized after I got out of this unexpected meditation that I was not at all planning to do. I was holding a lot in my heart, and that the full moon was coming up in a couple of days. So I took out my notebook and I continued the process of just writing down what I'm letting go of and just giving thanks for all the implications of that, like what that really means to me, and why that's important to me, how that's relevant to my life, how that's relevant to that which I wish to create in the world and that which I wish to see for humanity. So that's me. I'm like a humanitarian kind of vibe. I really give a fuck about people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I randomly aligned with the village people here the other day, and it's just like so much synchronicity, so much beauty. I really care on such a deep level. That is an aspect to relationships that is important to understand, is like what's important to you, what matters to you, what's relevant to you. It doesn't necessarily mean that when you relate to another person that y'all have to be in perfect alignment in all your values and all the principles and all that kind of thing. But you have to be able to have a certain level of respect for another person and their path. And you have to be able to be honest with yourself enough to say, hey, this is gonna resonate. This resonates enough for me to be able to walk down this path side by side, right? So you have to have a certain level of self-awareness to even be honest with yourself on that level. And that's what my videos are often about, is bringing awareness to the situation, because without a certain level of awareness, we're not able to make the changes. So at the very least, you can take an awareness that perhaps you may not have had, or from a different angle, you get to see a certain awareness that you may have had, but you get to see it from a different angle, maybe, or maybe from the same angle, and we can just vibe and resonate with one another, and maybe you feel less alone in the world. Take it for how you will, and I really appreciate you for watching. I really appreciate you for being present while I express myself in this way. It's pretty rare. So I'm wishing you a beautiful day, a beautiful night, a beautiful existence, a beautiful more peace in your heart.